So I've got a couple of male friends, and I cook way more than either of them. Like 2 weeks ago, I made a cake just for the fun of it. I made lasagna bolognese on a date and a chocolate cheesecake for a friend's birthday. One of them uses home meal delivery services for simple stuff, and the other doesn't cook at all. The one who doesn't cook is constantly jealous of the good food I have, and today said he thinks if my childhood had been different, I could easily be gay because of how much I like cooking. I think that might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard from him. I have yet to have any woman oppose my cooking, and most find it really cool that I'm pretty good at it. It's not that I think cooking isn't masculine. Until probably a year ago, I'd never heard cooking associated with feminine things. So I've never believed it's not masculine. I'm more curious about how people can be so stuck in that mentality of masculinity that they won't try cooking just because of a distorted perception, and then criticize those who do. Also, since everyone seems to mention restaurant chefs, I checked, and it was 81% male in 2012. I didn't realize it was that male-dominated, but I'll definitely bring that up if anyone mentions it again, as well as how essential it is and apparently attractive too. Now, about how to take advantage of that. Story 1. Dude, it is. Get your cooking experience on. The ladies who want a real dinner and not just a snack will flock to you. But you must learn the craft. Patience, patience, and practice. If you cook it, they will come. Story 2. As Robert Rodriguez says, not knowing how to cook is like not knowing how to make love. You have to do it for the rest of your life, so you might as well know how. Story 3. I can guarantee you it is. Nothing is better than a guy who can cook. And I am very put off by men who can't or who think eating vegetables isn't manly. There comes an age where that is just sad. Story 4. Knowing how to cook for yourself is one of the most basic elements of self-reliance. If there is one thing that is the pinnacle of manliness, it's self-reliance. If anyone has doubts, just make sure to add a humorous design to your next cake. What was I talking about? Man, I'm hungry now. I better go practice some self-reliance of my own. Story 5. Dude, I've had so many dates go well because I cooked dinner for them. I haven't met a woman yet who doesn't think a man in the kitchen is sexy. From what they tell me, it shows them he can take care of them and himself. It doesn't take that much skill to cook a meal, but when a meal is prepared and served well, it shows that he understands what he's doing and cares that his food tastes good because he wants his guests to have a good time. Cooking is up there with good hygiene and good grooming, and I think it's kind of childish if a man thinks they shouldn't make a meal in their own kitchen. Story 6. Because the whole male and female split is legitimately based on nonsense and whim. Cooking is women's work, of course. Except a barbecue with the boys, that's manly. Cooking the roast beef? That's a man's job. Roast vegetables go to the man. A man always cooks the big manly steak. But a cake? Pasta? No, forget that, that's for women. In this day and age, the only people that refuse to cook because it's women's work are lazy. Story 7. Because in the old days men worked, and women stayed at home to raise the kids, clean, and cook. Some people are old-fashioned and still think like that. They still live in the 60s. Story 8. My stepdad was the best cook and baker I knew growing up. I call him if I need help with cooking. My mother couldn't cook. She would even burn toast. I have never seen cooking or baking as a female or male thing. It's like a hobby and sometimes even an art with the amount of hours that goes into it. Story 9. I'm a 20-year-old male student, and I cook a lot for my roommates, who are all male friends. They tell me I'm a boss and thank me a lot for making delicious food. They are all a couple of years older than me. Cooking food and being good at it is very manly. Imagine you're a man who can't cook or can't keep a household on his own. I consider this not being manly. A man should be able to care for himself and, if he is able to, care for others as well. Being manly doesn't mean someone cares for your basic needs. I consider that being stuck in childhood. Story 10. I think it's just your weird mates, to be honest. I've been a chef for over a decade, and in that time I've seen maybe 2 female chefs. It's very much a man's world in professional kitchens. I have lots of friends who are chefs, but even my groups of mates that aren't chefs don't think it's feminine. Strangely, I was having a conversation about cooking ability at a pub recently, and everyone agreed that not being able to cook as an adult is unattractive and pretty pathetic. In fact, all the girls said they wouldn't date a man who couldn't cook. Story 11, I was a cook in the military. I can cook, I just don't like to cook, usually. There are times and certain menu items that I get a hankering for cooking, so I go shopping or scrounge around in the fridge and cupboards, wash my hands, and get to work. Most of my fellow cooks were also dudes. Story 12. I just recently found out I love to cook, and every time I do it, my dad walks in and calls me gay and a woman. He keeps making fun of me, saying I'm doing a woman's job, and it's just weird for me to do it. It's very annoying. Sorry, I found something that is fun and entertains me. Dad, you're not complaining when you're eating it. Story 13. It's weird. Making your own stuff from scratch seems like a description of very manly behavior. Maybe if we all started calling them kitchen tools rather than cooking utensils, so a food processor becomes a power tool? I'm guessing it's a hang-up from the family image of the 1950s where the father brings home the bacon while the mother cooks the bacon. If so, then a grown man cooking would be like a boy growing up to be like his mother. I honestly have no idea. Edit. Hey fellas, check out this sick lasagna I built with my new Nourishment Fuse Master 3000. Story 14. I think the perception around cooking has changed a ton. From all the people I know, the average man is more likely to cook than the average woman now. Story 15. Having at least one fancy and impressive dish that tastes great memorized is a hugely understated piece of dating advice. Even if you are not great at cooking, doing it enough times for practice will result in being able to pull out an impressive meal at the absolute best time. Being able to invite somebody who is all the sexy, as my fiancé calls it, over for what turns out to be a great meal, or being able to make an awesome dinner for a significant other's parents will always be impressive no matter who you are. Story 16. Your friend is jealous. My husband is a great cook, and it's so refreshing not to have to stand over him like he's some child in the kitchen. Also, it's super sexy when we collaborate. I really recommend finding a woman who can cook for this reason. Props to you. Story 17. Dumb tradition. Dad worked and mom stayed home and cooked. Now that both parents need to work, these traditions are going out the window. Everyone should be capable of doing anything. Story 18. The older I get, the less and less I care about other people's nonsensical assumptions and considerations about everything. I cook because I like to, and I am good at it. That is what a real man does, what he wants to. Story 19. My boyfriend, who is 35 years old, cooks breakfast and dinner for me all the time. He enjoys it way more than I do, and I'm totally fine with it. Your friend is probably just jealous that he either can't cook or isn't as good at it as you. Women appreciate a man who can cook, so it's definitely not working against you. Story 20. Aren't almost all of the most famous chefs in the world men? Tell Gordon Ramsay that cooking isn't manly and see what kind of verbal reprimand gets opened up on you. Story 21. If anyone makes it to adulthood without being able to cook, they are failing at survival and therefore less manly according to stereotypes. I love cooking. I think a major issue is that in a lot of traditional families, the mom does all the cooking. This sets expectations for children that women do the cooking and therefore, sons don't want to learn. Personally, my mom made sure my brother and I could both cook at least a couple of different healthy meals by the time we turned 16, and I'm so thankful because, as a teenager, I could impress girls with my cooking ability. Story 22. Who cares whether it's manly or not? You can do something that's incredibly useful for everyday life, and that's pretty awesome for those who can appreciate it. If some foolish friend equates it to being gay or whatever, the question you should ask yourself is not whether cooking is manly, but whether you really ought to be friends with this guy because you're wasted on him. Story 23. I love cooking. Is there anything more manly than being self-sufficient? I love spoiling my girlfriend with food too, and I am quite territorial in the kitchen. Story 24. To be honest, it's my new dating trick. We cook together or I cook, and she watches me and I make the craziest story. Like with pancakes, they're simple to make. A cool, easy trick is flipping them, and I make up some story about how my great-great-grandfather stole the recipe from his friend and made a business out of it. I don't know, but I consider it extremely manly, like women cooking for me is manly. Could depend on the region you live in. In America, I can definitely see it as a feminine thing. Story 25. It isn't unless you're an aging baby boomer or just behind the times. Most things that are considered masculine or feminine are so because of sexism and enforced strict gender roles. Masculine is being strong, working hard all day, and fighting in wars, while feminine is staying home to clean, cook, and look pretty. These things don't matter, and in this day and age can be ignored, as millennials and younger generations can't even afford living like that to begin with and need both parties in a relationship to be able to play multiple roles just to get by. You both need to be able to work, cook when the other is working, clean, do laundry, and look after and care for the children if you can afford to have any. Millennials love cooking more than most and have no notion of it being assigned to a gender role because everyone likes to eat. Story 26. What does someone's childhood have to do with them being gay? That's incredibly ignorant of your friend to say. I'm a hell of a cook myself. I love to turn on the grill, bake, fry, and use my slow cooker. I even have tweaks to my recipes to make most of my meals into a healthy version. Cooking is a basic survival tool that everyone should be able to use, and it's not very hard. I love showing people how to cook. I just can't get over your friend's statement. Story 27. Made a chocolate cheesecake for a friend's birthday. And I bet he would be more than happy to indulge in said cheesecake, since he cannot make his own. It is way too common for people who feel threatened by other people's skills to criticize those skills, kind of an unspoken defense of their lack of said skills. Story 28. I'm sure I'm repeating what others have said, but still. Are you a man? Do you cook? Then cooking is manly. Sam goes for women. People need to get over gender role hang-ups. I've been baking at home, and my significant other just finds it sexy. She says I'm making things she has been making for years, and now we can enjoy it together. Story 29. Bro, it's dope as hell to know how to cook and to enjoy it. Don't let anyone tell you it's more feminine or masculine. People are always impressed when you can cook, especially significant others. Story 30. Theory time. The other men feel emasculated because they lack the basic ability to cook for themselves and are projecting onto you. Also, it really bothers me that activities are gendered, especially cooking. We all need to eat. Rant over. Story 31. That's really inappropriate to say to someone. I don't know why someone who isn't extremely socially awkward would say that to a friend. I hate to say it, but it's gender roles created from the beginning of time really. Cooking falls into the gatherer role rather than the hunter role. Story 32. Your friend is just messing with you. I've been cooking for 13 or so years, and I've never been accused of being feminine because of it. Maybe it's baking? I don't bake, so I don't know. Story 33. This video inspired me and incidentally the dude from Binging with Babish to learn how to cook and cook well. There is nothing unmanly about cooking, even at home. It's truly badass. Story 34. Every time someone makes a joke about it, like your non-cooking buddy, I just tell them that most cooks are male and that being able to provide good food through your skill for yourself and perhaps your significant other or friends is, in my opinion, the essence of manliness. Story 35. And ironically, a lot of women were discriminated against for head chef and celebrity positions. Women in some places are still shut out of sushi making. Fashion design, look at some of the big-name blue-chip brands over the years. Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and Versace. Some say drama club is for stereotypes against women, which is stupid, but in many cultures women were not even allowed to participate in plays and operas. They might not even have been allowed to watch back then. Boys would often play the female roles if I recall. It's weird. Story 36. Most famous chefs are male, so that's all you need to point out to your male friends. Females love a male who can cook. This is not the 1920s anymore. It's 2019. You should change your friends, as they seem like a group of timid boys. Story 37. I wouldn't call cooking manly, but it's something everybody should be able to do. It's really a basic thing. As a man, I think that yes, men should cook and learn how to cook. You don't have to become a master chef, but you should be able to provide for yourself and make some tasty meals. Don't be dependent on eating trash or fast food. Your friend is just jealous, and if he meant what he said seriously, it's indeed stupid. Besides that, you can see that cooking shows and chefs in restaurants seem to be male-dominated. My male friends and I would sometimes cook together as well if we had a great idea or wanted some nice food. It's fun and tasty. If someone can't cook, be it a man or woman, he or she should learn. It has nothing to do with gender or being homosexual. It's about providing for yourself, and everyone should be able to do that. Story 38. Cooking can be pretty manly. I don't know who thinks otherwise. Barbecuing anything, first of all, is a classic American man's job. Preparing any dish that involves chopping something up with a big knife as well. And of course, you can just be really intense about it, like Gordon Ramsay. Story 39. I don't give a damn if people think I am manly. If anyone wants to call me out for making a quiche for Sunday brunch, I will fight them, which is very manly. Story 40. Let's look at it the other way around. It's unmanly to not be able to feed yourself properly and only live off microwave rice and delivery pizza. Story 41. I'm a naturally very masculine guy in my early 30s, and let me tell you, I absolutely love to cook. I try new recipes all the time, constantly have great food for all my meals and lunches I bring to work. Saves a ton of money, and I look great because I eat real food all the time. Frankly, I couldn't possibly care less if anyone thinks cooking isn't for men. I would consider them to be just ignorant children because cooking is so rewarding in so many ways. I think they are foolish for not seeing the value in doing this. I've met so many men who don't cook at all. It's just pathetic. My coworker brings no food at all for his lunches and walks over to Starbucks every day. Even if he just bought a Marie Callender pie and cooked that, it would still be something, you know. It isn't that hard. Story 42. I've always understood it as one of the top things on a girl's dream husband list. How is that not manly? I don't cook as often because of my work schedule, but I'm definitely more versed in the kitchen than my wife. I prefer baking over cooking, but I can make some pretty great meals. Story 43. Listen, I'm a 41-year-old husband and father of 3. I've done pretty much all the cooking in our relationship since we've been together. Frankly, I'm just better at it. This is not a brag, just a statement of truth. My wife does laundry because she's better at it, not because she's a woman. She just is. Truth is, I enjoy cooking most of the time. It's art mixed with science, and at the end of it all, you get to have an immensely satisfying experience. I like to eat well, and this way I can ensure that it happens. I honestly despise the need to compartmentalize certain tasks with gender roles because it's just a way to justify being lazy. Anyone can learn to cook, and saying it's woman's work is a cop-out.